grandfather's house, shot my grandfather's chest. When I without thinking, I ran after him, and he turned back and pointed his gun in my face. But for some reason, he decided not to shoot. So, I have a lot of reasons to be grateful to glorify God and enjoy Him. I think that should be the mission of all Christians in the US. So I'll share briefly on my career, and you can decide for yourself how much of it for my success is my own feeble efforts, or how much of it is God's blessings that God will use. I worked in one company for 26 years, Johnson & Johnson, the biggest healthcare company in the world. How did I work for them? Well, when I was studying in pharmacy as an undergraduate, I asked my people around, the lecturers, if you want to go to the pharmaceutical industry, which company and who should you go for? He said there are two persons, one is the lady, one is the guy. The guy runs the pharmaceutical business in J&J, and the lady runs the pharmaceutical business in ICI. ICI is now known as part of AstraZeneca. So I said, okay, that's great. And as an undergraduate, we had these students versus alumni games. And coincidentally, I played squash for the undergraduates. And I played against the guy who leads the J&J pharmaceutical business. I'm not a great player, but I'm not bad. And the guy had a much tougher game than he expected. So that's how I met him. When I graduated, I saw an advertisement. Product manager, Johnson & Johnson, minimum 2 years experience. Try. Right? I got interviewed by him. He said, oh, it's you. Yeah. You want to be product manager? I said, yes. You got no experience? I said, yes. You need 2 years experience. Well, but I think I can do the job. So eventually we came to this agreement. He said, I tell you what, you got no experience. We'll hire you as a sales rep. But 9 to 5, you're a sales rep. After 5, you come back to the office, you can be product manager. He said, okay. So that's how I started my career in J&J. And because I did that, I was one of the few people who worked late in the evening. And my managing director had a habit of walking around about 7, 8 p.m. to see who's still working. And then he would invite these people to his office, and he would open up his page and have a drink, and he would snap his pipe. He would talk about anything from work to personal life to faith matters. And that's when I saw this huge library of business books. And when we talk about a subject, he was able to go to the library and pull one book out. You see, that topic is really interesting. So some of the books he recommend is still in my library. I guess he had a big influence on me eventually having hundreds of business books. Now, after working in J&J for a while, we realized that there were these special species of people who work in J&J. Because as we meet different people, there were about 200 people in J&J. Then someone is that guy, is IDP, or that guy is IRDP. And I realized that unless you have some overseas training by J&J, you are not considered an elite in the company. So if you really want to progress in J&J, you have to convince your bosses to send you overseas for training. So I tried my best to give a good impression, especially to the Belgians who I work for, from the head office. I thought if I made a good impression, they would send me an IDP, and they did. Then eventually they offered, I got sent on an IPP, they decided to send me to Australia. However, the year I was supposed to go to Australia, my boss came to me and said, this is a tough year for the company. We need every hands on the deck. We can't afford to let you go for 1 year, enjoy yourself in Australia, we train. And so you understand that, right? So he brought me to see the director who was responsible for the entire medical division. He sat down and explained to her, we can't send Chris, not this year, maybe another year, but not this year. Now, this director, I don't actually interact very often with her because she spends most of the time on medical devices, not pharmaceuticals. And if you go to her room, she has a sign, a little plaque there with these words. Are you here with a solution or are you part of the problem? So every time you go in, that's the first thing you see. And you hear the solution of the problem. And then she listened to my boss, and then she said, Sam, I really don't care about your problems. He's going to Australia. So a lady who I seldom interact with insisted that I have this opportunity to go to Australia. So I spent a wonderful year in Australia. My sales territory was Queensland and Tasmania. What better sales territory we have? Coming back, I also realized that nobody gets promoted in J&J unless they have MBA. So I told my boss, I said, and the company sponsored my MBA. At that time, it was like $37,000 to study MBA. It's going to be difficult to pay for it out of your own pocket. And my boss said, you know, we have never sponsored anyone for this MBA program. If we sponsor you, everybody will ask us to sponsor you. Forget it, we're not going to sponsor you for your MBA. So I went back, then the headhunter called me, hey, there's this Chinese company wants to hire you, are you interested? We talked with this guy, but he was chairman owning a pharmaceutical company. He said, we would like you to join us. So I said, well, this is a big company, you're a small company. And he said, is there anything I can do for you to convince you to join? And I said, you sponsor MBA or not? Say, yeah, okay, no problem, we'll sponsor your MBA. So I went back, I wrote my resignation letter, sent in managing director. You're a mercenary. Here, we sponsor your MBA. That's how I did my MBA. After my MBA, after a while, we get a little bit restless. At the time, I was already given this regional marketing director for Asia Pacific. And the number 2 MNC in Indonesia, the CEO, wanted to hire me as his number 2. And he said, look, I'm going back in a year. You come and be my number 2 for 1 year. And after 1 year, you take over and go back to the US. I got a big role waiting for me. So I said, okay, sounds interesting. So I literally went to Indonesia. I even looked for a house. I even visited a house, and there's this village called Lipo village. That's some of the most beautiful, it's a self-contained. Yeah, it has its own hospital, it's everything. And I even found a house that I thought, well, this is a beautiful house. Jim would love living there. And I more or less made plans to go there. But when I went back, my boss said, we need you to go to China. The head of marketing just resigned, and his number two also resigned. So, because of that, we didn't go to I accepted the job offer. Jean had to resign from the job at unboxing, and then we went to China. I didn't know this, but 2 years later, there was race riots in Jakarta, and Ipoh village was one of those village that was ransacked or attacked by the rioters. So fortunately, but going to China meant 5 fascinating years. This was a period when China was changing dramatically. And to be part of that experience was quite enriching. It also gave me the opportunity to personally visit more than 150 Chinese cities. Not many people have visited 150 Chinese cities. Some very obscure places like Mao Zedong's birthplace. I've done the 40 kilometers of the Great Walk and various other things. After 5 years in China, decided to come back, take on the position of general manager for Singapore, Malaysia, and then later on other roles. So anyway, it's enough for talking about myself. I'll go to the little presentation that I have. So what is IDP? IDP is International Development Program. So JAJ has 2 talent sources. One is IDP, one is IRDP. IRDP is every year they interview about 300 MBA students who graduate from the US, the top universities, interview them, hire them, send them for 1 year overseas, and then put them back into their home country. That's IRDP. IDP is local managers going to companies, hire to think they have potential and send them overseas training. It's part training, it's part evaluation. So if you don't perform, then you're out. Okay, actually, this is a topic that I originally prepared. I don't know how much time I have. We can go through history, some of it. I offered, why don't I talk about this topic? Executive development or executive achievement, circular and vision perspectives. And my son said, that's such a long title. How to be CEO lah. Yeah, how to be CEO? He said, act Christian there lah. So it's a topic I'm personally interested in because I had that desire to lead a company myself. And it's not an opportunity given to many people. Right? The statistics show that 1 in 2,500 university graduates from the US will ever have a chance to lead the company. So if you want to be CEO and you have to graduate from a college in America, your chance of being CEO is 1 in 2,500. Most of you know him, except for this, I guess. LKY, one of his famous sayings is that the human being is the most unequal creature. He subscribes to this philosophy that there's only a small handful of people that matters. And these are the small handful of people that determines the future of their organizations. And we used to say, if you have 200 people, you put them in an aeroplane, and the jumbo crash is the end of Singapore. That's what he did. So this opportunity or this small group of people, how do we get to be part of this small group of people? Now, this is a very interesting study. It's called the bell curve. And this bell curve says that if you have an IQ of 130 and above, right, you will be part of the top 2%. And these are the people who eventually run society. And you have to be in the top 2%. And a huge study on job performance versus whatever criteria you use found that the only criteria that had a significant impact on performance is IQ. Right? The correlation is 0.53. That means how intelligent you are have a big impact on determining how far you go. Everything else, including your bio, reference checks, your education, and interview, your college grades, have no predictive capability. And if you look at how IQ evolved, it's quite fascinating. So when we start, this is a big study. When we start, all girls are smarter than boys. In the early ages, all the girls' IQ score is above 100. All the boys' IQ score is below 100. So we start off boys being more stupid than girls.
That's what my sister tell me.
But over time, there's two very distinct trends. Those who come from high income social status, their IQ climb. Those who come from middle and low income, their IQ decline.
Oh.
And the gap between the starting and the end is big. That means if there was a small difference in the beginning, because you come from a low income family, it becomes a big difference. And this is a fascinating slide. But is there anything else apart from IQ? So the
EQ.
consensus is yes, there's another one. Not EQ yet. This is before Daniel Goleman and EQ. It's hard work.
Yes.
How hard you work. So, two attributes effectively determine your career. How smart you are, how hard you work. That's what the research shows. Right. Now, there's a lot of work by Daniel Goleman on emotional intelligence, and people later on realize that you can't just rely on hard work and EQ. Right? That came through. What if you're not so smart? And this is probably the most prominent Seventh-day Adventist Ben Carson. If you can read, you can learn just about anything you want. Right? That is actually Ben Carson's mother. And Ben Carson often quotes this: if you can read, you can improve yourself. What does the literature say about hard work versus IQ versus talent? Malcolm Gladwell says, if you want to succeed, you need 10,000 hours of deliberate practice.
Yes.
If you don't put in the 10,000 hours, you are not going to succeed in whichever endeavor you are trying to master. Mastery requires deliberate effort. This guy has a different view, slightly different. He says that the evidence do not justify that talent or ability is not important. But hard work beats talent only when talent is lazy. And then finally, there's an author who says that it's not just working hard, it's about passion. Being passionate about what you want to do and being able to pursue it. So this is a quick summary that which comes to this management lesson number 1. To sit around and do nothing, you have to sit high at the top. What is the biblical perspective of this? Well, In Ecclesiastes, it says, whatever your hands finds to do it with all your might. You can see that in the way Lina approaches her work. Like, whatever your hands find to do it with all your might. And then Colossians add something, as if you are working for the Lord and not for human masters. I mean, when you work hard, it could be your job. It is as if you are working for Jesus. I like this quote myself. You know, in the church, we often talk about grace and faith versus law and works. Right? One of the earliest discussions was about Saint Augustine, who believed in grace and faith, and Saint Pelagius, who believed in law and works. But Saint Augustine, who is the champion for grace, he says, pray as if everything depends on God, but work as if everything depends on you. I think that's a great philosophy to have. Now, when we come to emotional intelligence, we're coming to personality and so forth. What I want to say in this, I'm going to rush through this. The correlation between personality and performance is not backed up by a lot of rigorous research. But having said that, 90% of MNCs use personality tests to evaluate, assess, develop, coach their key managers. Now, the big five of personality is extroversion versus introversion. And the indication is that if you are extroverted, you are twice as likely to succeed as someone who is introverted. Then you have what they call here negative affectivity. The term they use in this is neuroticism. Right? If you are neurotic, you are sensitive, you think everyone is talking about you, you are anxious, you are tense, versus someone who is stable, confident, and calm. Well, negative, being neurotic, seems to be a bit damaging for especially for women. And then agreeableness, there is no evidence that being agreeable helps you to succeed in your career. In fact, there is evidence that being too agreeable is a liability rather than an advantage. And then conscientiousness, of course, if you work hard, yes. Right? And then openness, yes, but not a lot. That if you're more open-minded, you are more successful. These so-called 5 C's, though have not been that useful, they still draw some mild correlations. But the Myers-Briggs is the most used personality profile to develop people. Now, unfortunately, I got no time to talk about that, so I'll just go very quickly through some of these things. Myers-Briggs, they come up with 4 different dimensions, 16 personalities. If you want to see what your personality type is, go to 16 personalities, take the online test, it's free, and you find out what your personality is. But what they found is that there are 6 particular Myers-Briggs type that tend to be successful in careers. Right? And I have coined different terms to describe them. The first one is the belligerent wrecking ball. Donald Trump. Their personality profile is ESTJ. They are highly demanding, highly focused, and they do deliver results. That's why organizations like them. You will see a lot of ESTJs. They may not be very knowledgeable, but they deliver results. Sorry. Can you explore this? What they hate is losing control. You can't stand having somebody lose. It's not being controlled by them. Then you have the ENTJ, the people who can energize an audience. They are able to have clarity and can articulate powerful ideas that can inspire and motivate people. They are called the natural born leaders. Their superpower is powerful ideas. Their weakness is they cannot stand frustration. They can't stand people who don't understand what they see. And then you have the visionary architect, the INTJ, the smart fellow, introvert, thinks about before he doesn't. But his superpower is that he understands, he has insights, and he makes great decisions, decisive decisions. These people are not as impatient as the ENTJ, but they cannot stand failure. And then you have the charismatic orator, the ENFJ. When you listen to him, somehow you feel trust and confidence. You think he's the guy to lead us. They may not necessarily have substance, but for some reason, you say, nah, this is the guy to lead us. So when you have someone like Barack Obama and he writes the book, The Audacity of Hope, everyone feels hopeful. Why are they hopeful? And these people cannot stand to be mocked. And then you have the ESFJ, the power brokers, the one who succeeds because they have friends, powerful, influential friends everywhere. Their superpower is loyal alliances. And what they can't stand is loss of influence. And then they have the conscientious implementer, the ISTJ, the person who is very meticulous, who understands detail, who is very organized. What they can't stand is surprises and disorder. So these are the 6 personalities that succeed in life, in careers. Now, if you know what makes them successful, you can have an idea of maybe there are some of their strengths that you can leverage on, for your own career success. You are not successful because you do everything well, but you have some unique strengths that you can leverage. Very few people can do more than one. So I'm ending up my talk already. This is a bit subjective. If you read the internet, what you can talk about reasons for success, but this is reasons for failure. What derail leaders? This is my own list. It's not authoritative. This is my opinion. Right. Number 1, arrogance and being self-absorbed. Arrogance and being self-absorbed. Now, these are business quotations that as you read, you laugh. Because, and they are made by important people who predicted that there is no market for personal computers, which will tell mini computers, mainframes. There's cellular phones will never replace the landlines. People who believe that you don't need a lot of memory space, just 637 kilobytes will be more than enough. People who believe that online shopping will never take off. People who don't like to hold what they want to buy. People who say that having a smartphone or communicator is a pipe dream driven by greed. And people who say that the iPhone is going to gain very little market share. Of course, they were all proven wrong. Arrogance, according to Warren Buffett, is one of the main reasons for decay. There is more than enough Bible verses to talk about how much God detests arrogance. This text is quoted 4 times in the Bible. God opposes the proud. If you want to be proud, know that God will oppose you. And there are many Bible stories about proud people who were brought down to earth. And you can be the head of an empire, you can be the number 2 person in the kingdom. You can be the son of the king who sees himself as the natural successor. You can be an arrogant king of Judah. You can think that you are the head of an empire. You could even be the sister of the prophet, right? Or the strongest man on earth, or the most beloved king of Israel, whom God calls, the man after my own heart. All these people have experiences that teach us we should not be proud. Being selfish and self-serving. In management, you see a lot of people who are very happy to take credit for anything good that happens, and they blame other people for failure, right? They take credit but assign blame. This guy wrote a book called Leaders Eat Last. Leaders do not eat first. If you want to be a good leader, you eat last. This is the biblical principle. Servant leadership. Right? If you want to be a leader, you must be a servant. The Son of Man did not come to be served. He came to serve. If you serve your people, you will have a very pleasant surprise how they respond to your leadership. I believe that. Lacking insights and ability. This is a management lesson number 2. BS might take you to the top of the organization, but you won't keep there. In order, there's only one thing a leader needs: followers. As long as you have followers, you are a leader. But followers are not going to follow an incompetent leader. He doesn't know what they are doing. There is no substitute for ability. You read the story of Nehemiah. Yes, desire is one thing. You also need ability. Trusting the wrong people. Because of time, I'll go very quickly over. If you promote the wrong people, you will lose your best people. And in every organization, for some reason, there are people who doesn't want to leave, but makes it their mission to be as disruptive as possible. Good leaders should not keep them in the organization. They are speaking for the time. I also speak this. This Carnegie model, I couldn't find a better slide. But what the Carnegie model basically explains, do not think organizations make the best decisions out of the good, overall good of the organization. Because in organizations, there are coalitions. Coalitions are informal groupings of people that really decide the future of the organization. And these coalitions pick people not because they are the best people for the organization, but because they are the best people for their purpose and objectives. That is the Carnegie model, right? They choose the people to lead the organization based on compromise and bargaining, based on their own objectives. They do not give, they do not approach the decision-making objectively. And if you want to read a modern book about that, you can read the 26 Laws of Power. It's by the guy called Green. This is an interesting finding. Psychologists have found that the lowest incidence of psychopathic traits is 4% among corporate executives. That means 4% of corporate executives are psychopathic. That's the lowest. It goes as high as 21%. Now, the prevalence of psychopathy in the general population is 1%. That means psychopathy seems to help you get to the top. The problem with psychopathic leaders, they may be charming, decisive, ruthless, courageous. They are also cunning, manipulative, untrustworthy, unethical, and utterly exhaustive. They don't have empathy. And interestingly, the authors suggest only men are rewarded for psychopathic behavior. Women don't survive. Women psychopaths don't survive. For some reason, the Bible's advice, put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no salvation. Okay, finally, trying to make everyone happy. I put everything here. If you are trying to make people happy, you will not have a good people. First, we will not be making clear decisions. Clear decisions makes some people happy. We will not provide clear direction because you are afraid of offending people. So you don't provide clear directions, and you don't require clear accountability. But if you want to please people, you're not going to do it. The LK1 makes it very simple. Whoever governs Singapore must have the iron within. And finally, what makes great leaders is their purpose. And I've done some courses in personal coaching. I've been coached myself. I've trained to be a coach. One of the exercises we do is that we give our coachee or a piece of paper. It says, what's really important to you? Here's a list. It's not meant to be exhaustive. You can add. So this is, I've managed to organize it. What's really important to you? Is it having more responsibilities, having control, having power, having wealth, having prestige, having influence, having legacy, leaving a legacy? Or do you want to be accepted by people? You like to be loved by people? You want to be recognized? You don't want conflict? You want to feel a sense of belonging? You want to have friendships and relationships? And you want to like working with people? Or you want to learn? You want to develop? You want to challenge yourself? You want knowledge? You want wisdom? You admire and respect discipline, and you want character. Or you're a person who doesn't want to change. You want to change anything. You want things to stay the way they are. If you improve incrementally. You don't want big change. Or you are a person who believes in adapting, being able to adapt, or to innovate, or to disrupt, or to transform. Or your purpose is basically to gratify yourself, or to look after your family, or to look after your community, or to do good to people, or to have a mission to do something for God, or to have fundamentalism, spirituality. Today we talk about spiritualism. Spirituality is not spirituality is holiness, purity. Is your mission to be as fundamental and SBA as possible? Or is your mission to be as pure and holy as SBA as possible? It's different. So what really matters in your life?
You say choose five. Five of them.
Yeah. No, you don't have one for each. Can be everything. Right. Okay, so we do this exercise. We want people to critically evaluate what is their purpose. And then ask themselves, are you happy with this being your purpose? And then you ask themselves, how does your behavior align with your purpose? Does your behavior align closely with your stated purpose? Now, I hope families brand stands for to many of your And certainly for myself, I seldom have a chance thank my wife, my family for giving me the purpose and the support for many years. I'm very fortunate to have her. This is my family just before we decided to go to China. Ultimately, we have to remember that it's not over and it's not over your soul. But to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul. In the beginning, we said, I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather have Jesus than be the king of the vast dominion. Like what we said.
Yes. Number two speakers. Keep coming, huh? Thank you indeed. Lina and Chris for such a enlightening session, testimony and training. When I saw the picture on the bell curve, IQ of 100 is below. So I'm about 100. No wonder I have to retire from business so fast. At 32, I retired from business. So, and I was comforted by the other side, male, female, right? Boys and girls. Okay. So my development is later. Right, anyway, thank you all. Now it's time for question and answer. We have two speakers. Yes, so sharp.
Please ask the question. What good thing can come out of Maranatha? Today we have the answer, Chris and Lina. Throughout their sharing of their professional journey, as Lina was speaking, and how she started as a sweet young thing, right? Before you know anything, people saw what was in you. Reminded me, if later part, you can look into this Genesis 39 story of Joseph. And many times it's repeated in that story of Joseph, and the Lord was with him. Potiphar saw that the Lord was with him, and because the Lord was with him, Potiphar made him ruler over everything in his house. Wasn't that true in both their experiences? Now, of course, Lina, a lot of folks saw what there was in you before you knew it. With different Chris, of course, ladies don't have that, that's the male ego. Chris knew what he had to do, right? And then he wanted to get this, he wanted to get that, but then you saw the Lord close some doors, open some doors, and at the end of the day, just guided him. So really, it is all about God is there with us, whether or not we follow His leading, His guiding, and the success and everything else will come. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think I can see, I'm a third generation adventist. I can see many of third generation, fourth generation really do well in society. Wherever they are leaders. God has indeed blessed people. Despite of being a very small denomination, you're right. But we have like the Jews, sell in many areas. Today, just these two times, you only saw 4% who has excelled in the and that definitely God has a part to play. We also turn to Ecclesiastes 2:26. That's my favorite ASI text. 2:26. You have your apps and symbol. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 26. Someone likes to read that out? Out loud. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 26. That's my favorite Bible text. So yes, I remember. That's the
if people do good and please God, He will give them wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But those who sin will get only the work of meat and carrying things. God takes from the bad person and gives to the good person. But all this work is useless. It is like trying to catch the wind.
Okay, what question is that?
Easy to read question.
Easy to read. Someone has to have a hard English version. Anybody has King James version? Anybody? King James version?
For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit.
Let's see. Every word counts. Okay, so I'm here not to share this. Maybe during my testimony, I'll share this favorite Bible text. Any more questions? Any questions for the two speakers?
Yes, question for Chris.
Yes.
With your knowledge, vast knowledge, were you able to predict the officers that were selected for Singapore?
And every week he writes, every week Chris writes about politics, to summarize of what happened. Okay, Chris, the answer, did you anticipate Lawrence Wong?
He was not, I don't think he was the original choice. Right, and our PM, our former PM himself acknowledged, he even described the detailed process that was chosen to appoint him. And I thought that the reason he did that was to explain, was in a way to say, it's not my choice, this is the process. Now, in HR, you have this thing called procedural justice and distributive justice. Distributive justice, you make a decision. Procedure, you say, I follow the procedure and this is the result. It was a procedure that was followed and Lawrence Wong became Prime Minister. But we can say that there was enough science, right? He was the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance usually becomes the Prime Minister. And he did a good job as being in charge of the COVID task force. And some of the original front runners, if you like, we all know who the front runners are, they were identified, somehow wasn't as popular. And not popular among the people is one thing, not popular among their peers. Lawrence Wong was chosen by his peers, 17 or something like that out of 19, or 13 out of 19 chose Lawrence Wong. It's quite revealing that our PM decided to actually explain how Lawrence Wong became, because he did not come from a top school. University of Wisconsin Medicine is not Harvard, it's not Oxford, it's not Cambridge, it's not ISE, not London School of Economics, it's not. He came from Tanjong Katong Tech. Usually, Singapore is RI and ACS. Tanjong Katong Tech is near Maranatha,
What good can come out of Maranatha?
Sorry, we changed that phrase. What good things can come out of Katong?
Plan. Follow up on that. What about US election?
Coming election.
Let's not go so far.
It affects the whole world. Okay. So Betty wants to reserve that political question to herself. Okay, next question. Anybody?
Yeah, I will share. Yeah, I thank you for sharing the CEOs, I mean, from my understanding, and maybe because I am my own boss, my own founder, so I engage staff, so like for CEO, the daughter is also a CEO. So I feel that usually that kind of political play, in your companies, so as a boss, maybe you do not see so much, So what do you see, when you give us a lot of this kind of illustration about all the personality traits, the good things to follow and say, but in reality, as a Christian, do you think you really abide by that? Career path, you can share it with them.
The six leaders.
Well, one of the most important job leader has is to fix his leadership team. The people who are your right hand persons. And if you have the wrong people in your leadership team, it is difficult it's not just for you, it's for your organization. And so it's one of the most important responsibilities. Now, do I rely on anything? My first MD told me that you can do everything right. You can follow the right procedure, you did everything right. And at least 30% of the time you will be wrong. And I think we have to have that humility. There is no guarantee.
Yeah.
There is no guarantee that you're right. You can only ask God for wisdom, and wisdom